Okay, so I think we'll make a start, and this session is being recorded so people can catch up. But welcome to today's session. My name is Lily, and I'm the Community Fund Coordinator at the Carbon Literacy Project. And today is just an opportunity to hear a little bit more about our new funding round. So I'll start with a short presentation, and then I will answer some of your questions. Feel free to pop the questions just in the chat, and I will go through them and answer them just after the presentation. That will be about 10-15 minutes time. And feel free to treat this as a drop-in. If your question's been answered, then no pressure about staying for the whole hour. And as I said, it will be recorded, so you can always catch up later. Without further ado, I'll just give you a little bit of an outline of the presentation that we're going through today. So as this might be the first time that some of you have come across carbon literacy before, I'll just do a little bit of an introduction to the Carbon Literacy Project. And then I'll cover why we've created the community pot, how it will be used to make it easier to access carbon literacy, who can apply, and how, before moving on to the Q&A part of the session. If any questions do come up throughout this, then please feel free to either make a personal note of them, or as I said, submit them into the chat. And yeah, then I'll answer those later on. So what is carbon literacy? Carbon literacy is a day's worth of climate learning and action. We accredit training courses that are developed to be very relevant to a specific group or sector, with the intention of equipping communities and individuals with the knowledge and skills needed to take meaningful action against climate change. Once training is complete, we ask learners to submit 2 new significant actions that they will take to decarbonise their communities, workplaces, schools, etc. And based on this evidence, we can certify them as carbon literate. Carbon Literacy Project is the largest low-carbon culture change project of its kind, and it's been recognised by the United Nations as one of their 100 worldwide transformative action programmes. Here are some of our latest stats. There are quite a few there, but just to cherry pick some, we have accredited over 700 courses, which have been used to train and certify. This figure is actually out of date. It's now 97,000 citizens who have been certified as carbon literate. And together they've saved over almost 350,000 tonnes of carbon. So there's lots of great things going on at the project, and it's a great thing to be a part of. However, we do recognise that although this is a great tool and a lot of us would like to take part in climate action, sometimes we lack the resources and the tools to do so. And this is often the case for those on the front lines of climate change, who are often least responsible for causing the problem in the first place. Additionally, there is very little funding out there for climate projects, and it can be really hard to find support that you need to make your project kind of materialise into action. And we know that carbon literacy is an effective tool to cut carbon emissions and improve the health and prosperity of communities. However, due to costs associated with starting a carbon literacy initiative, it can be difficult to access training via the current streams available, which is why we've created our community pot. The community pot is our new fund that aims to improve access to carbon literacy for groups who might otherwise struggle to afford the cost of starting training. The community pot has been created with contributions from organisations that currently receive carbon literacy training. And for this round, we've received additional funding from the Big Green Give as part of our Empower Global Communities campaign, which means that we are able to offer the equivalent of £25,000 in funded services to low-income and underrepresented groups from countries in the Global South. Now, what do we mean by funded services? This covers criteria checking costs, which help you accredit your course and make sure that you can deliver it and make sure it meets our standards. It will cover certificate application costs so that you can get your learners certified as carbon literate once they've completed their training. And subject to approval, you can access our toolkits and shareable courses, which are a range of pre-made resources which you can use to assist you with course creation, and it takes some of that time and pressure away from making it completely from scratch. And we will also be assisting with comms, content creation, to help amplify your work. Now, the reason for distributing the community pot as funded services rather than as money is to avoid complexity and the requirement of having a bank account in order to apply for the community pot, which we felt might exclude lots of groups from accessing support because they don't have this requirement. And for that reason, we're unable to cover costs such as trainer time, venue hire, and kind of other costs associated with training. But do check our Funding for You page for additional sources that might support your project. Our funded services are intended to reach communities with limited or no funds, charities and not-for-profits, with annual revenue of less than 25k, and marginalised groups who tend to be underrepresented in climate action. You don't have to meet all of these criteria, by the way, just at least one of them to apply. And we're also welcoming applications from trainers and delivery organisations based outside of the Global South, but who are well placed to reach the intended audience and enhance global engagement. So if you don't fall under these categories, but have connections to and could help train people who do fall under these categories, then we would love to hear from you as well. Also, due to our current capacity within the project, we require that the applicant or initiative contact or lead can communicate with us in English, although courses may be delivered in any language. We'll be releasing versions of our evidence forms in, I believe, 5 other languages other than English, and also have plans to offer our Delivering Successful Carbon Literacy training sessions in other languages too. So to apply, all you need to do is head to our website, which you can access via the QR code in this top right-hand corner. You need to read our application guidance just to make sure you have all the information that you need. This will give you a list of definitions of key terms, and it will go again through the funded services on offer, the eligibility criteria, and a copy of the questions in the application form with example answers, as well as terms and conditions. And then applications must be submitted through our online Microsoft form, which we will just take a look at in a moment's time, just so that you can familiarise yourself with that process. And to give you an idea of the timeline that we expect, obviously today, the 11th of June, is our Q&A. Oh, sorry, I thought you couldn't see the lines there, but I realised they're just actually really faint. So the 11th of June is the Q&A, the 28th of June is when applications close. At some time in July, we will be having our review panel, which is made up of members from across the carbon literacy team, where we will review applications and come to decisions together. Depending on that session, we might have some additional questions for you, which means that we'll be getting in touch with our decision notifications towards the end of July or early August. Throughout August, we'll then be focusing on getting you set up on our systems. There'll be a couple of forms, like the media consent form that you'll have to sign, and maybe some extra bits to help with comms. So we ask for a high resolution image and a short statement to talk about how you feel about being successful in receiving the funds, just so that we can go and amplify this and celebrate your achievement. So we expect funded services will be available for you to use by August, giving you plenty of time to get ready for Carbon Literacy Action Day, if that's something that you wish to take part in this year. I'll send an email around afterwards with a little bit more information about Carbon Literacy Action Day. I'm sure many of you attended the webinar a couple of weeks ago. And if this timeline looks a little bit rushed for you as a group, if you don't have lots of resources and regular meetings as a community group, then don't worry, you can still apply even if it will be, you know, several months. I had someone email me saying they'd love to apply, but they don't think they'll be able to deliver until possibly May next year. And that's completely fine. Funded services won't expire unless 12 months pass where you either don't use them or don't get in touch and tell us your plans to use them. But if you have a kind of timeline to plan and communicate that to us, then we're happy for the funded services to remain active for you to use until they run out. So I will quickly just share the website just so that you can familiarize yourselves with that. And I'll just show you something that I think will probably be quite useful. Just here. So this is the website. If you scan the QR code, you'll have come through to this. This does summarise lots of the information that we've just covered. And you can check back on this website to see any future funding rounds. But I just wanted to draw your attention to this section at the bottom. So here is where you can find the application guidance, the link, and then the application form. So if we click on this link, that takes us to this PDF. From the contents page, you can see that this has the key terms, lots of different sections that might be of use, but especially I want to draw your attention to the application questions, because if we look at the application form, you're not able to flick through and look at all of the questions because it's sectioned. So you might be going into that kind of blind and not be able to prepare fully. Whereas if you take a look at these questions, it's all of the same questions listed, but you just have an opportunity to kind of practice your answers and write them out a bit more fully. Or if you are collaborating with another group and you wish to send them some questions so you can kind of get some more information before you submit your application, then yeah, this is all here for you. There's also some example answers and some of the longer written word answers. So definitely make use of this resource. You can't submit applications through this, but you can save it and practice and then copy them through to this application form, which is how all of the applications should be submitted. We're back. So that is the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions, then feel free to pop those in the chat now, or you can pop your camera on or just your microphone and ask away. I'll be here to answer any questions. I'll be here for the next hour. So yeah, feel free to just drop those in the chat. Well, hopefully, if not many questions come through, then that means that everyone's got the information they need. If you like, we can maybe take a little look at the...
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lily, for sharing. I only just came recently about the carbon literacy projects and just wanted to learn more about it. So first question is, do you have restrictions on the place around the world of people to apply? That's one. Then the second one in terms of so I heard what you said in terms of, well, this is to cover the certifications and a couple of other things as well. But then I see that the maximum to apply for is 5,000. So how does that correlate with the funded services? What are the remaining parts meant to cover, or that someone could actually apply for that to cover?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, those are really good questions. So in terms of the countries which can apply, applicants from the countries, there are restrictions. They are listed in the key terms of the application guidance. But off the top of my head, this is any country in Asia, excluding Japan, South Korea, and Israel. Any country in Africa, excluding South Africa. Any country in Australasia. What's I did geography at uni, but I can't remember the continent name. Oceania, excluding Oceania. Thank you. Excluding Australia and New Zealand, and any country in South and Central America can apply. But yeah, this is all in the key term section of the application guidance document. And in terms of the funded services and the kind of conversion to money, if I actually I'll go back onto this slide because it might be slightly easier to explain. And I went straight past it. So here you can see that I've added a kind of price amount for what this costs. So for a certificate application, it's £10 per learner. So if you applied for £5,000 worth of funded services, that would be 500 certificate applications. Or you could apply for you could apply for 490 certificate applications and have £100 left over for accreditation costs for the course. So that's where the kind of £5,000 would get made up, if that makes sense. The toolkits and the shareable courses, you won't need to add a kind of a cost to that, because that will be offered if that is required. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I've explained that. If I've explained
Yeah,
that.
maybe. Yeah, I think it explains it. So, for example, if we're applying as an organization for the course accreditation, does that mean we need to state the number of people within our organization that we would like them to take the course? Is that what it means?
Yeah, so the number of certificate applications that you would like to receive to deliver your project. This could be people already within your organisation and within a network of volunteers or a local community, or it could be where if you see the kind of project working and expanding, and you might apply for more than is currently in your organisation, but you have a plan to kind of reach out and bring more people into that. So just the number of certificate applications that you think you need to deliver your carbon literacy initiative. Great, I can see a thumbs up, so that's really useful. Are there any other questions that anyone has at the moment?
Hello, Lily. This is Esther.
Hi, Esther.
I joined a little bit later. My network is giving me a problem. I wanted clarity on the funded services. I read in the guide, but it didn't come out clearly. Is it specifically the certification and accreditation services? Then when I looked at the cost, is it the budgeting template? I wanted to know, because here one of the funded services you give is access to tools and shareable courses. So I wanted guidance on how do I quantify that, because I don't have how carbon literacy. I don't have the rates at which carbon literacy project gives those tools and courses.
Thank you, Esther, for your question. Yeah, so here it should have been more clear actually. I should have said all of these things listed on this slide. So course accreditation, certificate application, and access to toolkits will all be covered. Could all be covered by the community part. And in terms of the funded services, they will cover that's £100 per course for a course accreditation, £10 per learner for certificate applications. And because the toolkits and the shareable courses are materials that we as a project we own and can give out, you don't have to kind of allocate an amount to that when you submit your application. If there's a question that asks you to express interest in the toolkits and shareable courses. I think you'll be able to have a look at these on the website if you go to the sectors page, and that's also linked on the guide. So you can take a look at those and see if any do interest you, and just indicate that on your application form. But there won't be a cost associated with that for people who receive funding from the community pot. So yeah, these will be free to access. Does that? Oh, thank you, Emma. Emma's just shared the link to that page in the chat, to the sectors page, so you can take a look at those the different courses and materials we have available. But yeah, you won't have to allocate a specific amount. You just have to indicate if that is something that you'd like.
And just to come in really quickly on that, sorry, Lily, just to expand, and apologies that my camera's off today. So with those sectoral resources that we currently have, it wouldn't necessarily be that we would just give everyone access to all of those resources. It would be dependent on if there was a relevant resource for the course that you were looking to develop and the audience that you wanted to deliver to. So say if we have sort of food and farming related materials, if the group you wanted to reach were a community of farmers, for example, then yes, it is very likely that those materials, we would probably be able to share them with you, and they would need adapting because they are for a UK context at the moment. But it would be something from which you could base your own materials for your course accreditation.
Thank you, Emma. That's really good to specify on that. Does that answer your question, Esther?
I think she might be having connection trouble, so we might need to follow up at the end and send the recording.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. I can see her dropping in and out, joining as a guest and leaving again, so I'll make a note. Are there any other questions that anyone has at all? Is there anything else unclear? Or if you have an idea for a project that you'd maybe like to share with everyone and see if it's something that we'd consider funding, then do also use this as an opportunity to get some extra feedback.
Yeah, I have a question. So in terms of the sectors, so we primarily work within the education sector, but we have what is called a makerspace. So we run like a makerspace. So we have a virtual makerspace and we have a physical makerspace. So the idea is that people from different sectors to break, to make, and to build solutions. And people are interested in different areas. So we have people that do agric, we have people that are into tourism, we have people into different areas, governance and things like that. So when we're applying, do we, and because we have these different sectors and interests, do we apply more within the education sector, or we can multiple select based on the interest of the people that we work with? And many of them are spread across the African continent as well. So they are not just in the country of our operation or of our registration. So how do we do that?
Yeah, I guess it's tricky if you have lots of different sectors that you're kind of working within. We do have a course kit which has some more kind of generic materials that can be used to build a course. If you'd be interested in kind of playing a more active role in creating a course that is more relevant to the services you provide. You could also apply for multiple courses if there are quite a few which are interesting to you. And there'll also be we'll also try and create a pool of resources based on the courses people make using the Community-Pot resources. So, I mean, maybe this is only the second round of funding, so it might not be the most useful at the moment, but that could be something that feeds into it based on what other people. We do have an education kind of college that received funding in our pilot round. They're based in Liverpool in the UK. Which sounds like a slightly similar kind of project to yours. So maybe there'd be some overlap there, and we can maybe put you in touch and think about how we can kind of work as a whole Community-Pot kind of project to find materials which are relevant to you. And yeah, would you be interested in kind of, because there is also the option to design a course completely the way you would like it to be. It doesn't have to follow these sets toolkits or shareable courses by any means if you would like to create something much more kind of bespoke, if that is something that you'd be interested in and have the capacity for.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, because we're a makerspace, so we do a lot of creating courses, programs, activities, because we want to make sure that things are more tailored to each person rather than something generic. So, and like I said, we are an educational nonprofit, but then our goal is to do education differently and not conventionally from the mainstream. So many times we usually need to adapt or co-create something that is really more tailored to each of our participants and to the places where they live as well. So yes, we're totally open to that.
Amazing. Yeah, it would be really great to have that kind of, to have carbon literacy delivered in a way that isn't necessarily a traditional education setting, and have people involved in it in a way that kind of speaks to their own kind of sectors and interests and things. There is a course that I quite like. I was one of the criteria checkers for a while, and I accredited a course which was delivered in a theatre, and it was kind of taught as part of the like part of their production. So definitely open to have kind of more creative ways of delivering carbon literacy training. Yeah, that sounds like a really exciting project. Esther, have you been able to rejoin? I'm not sure if you
Yes,
you
yes.
are.
I didn't get Emma's response. I think she was sharing something, but I dropped off. But maybe you could reiterate for me or follow up later after this.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we did say that maybe it would be useful to follow up directly, just because your connection was slightly dropping in and out. But yeah, Emma shared the link to the sectors just there if you want to take a look at those. And yeah, you wouldn't have to use you wouldn't have to basically add the cost of that to your application, is I think what I was saying. Were there any other questions that you had about your specific community group or the organisation that you're coming from? You'd be welcome to run any ideas past us.
Oh, yeah, I think I have a question. Mine is a community-based organization, and we are still, I don't know, we're still in the process of formalizing it. So I don't know whether we would still be credible to apply. My understanding reading through the guide is we would be, but maybe your confirmation would ease my anxiety a bit more.
I think that if you have something that you're working towards, and you know that this is something that that carbon literacy is something you'd like to deliver once you are a bit more kind of settled and formalized as an organization, then I think we'd probably still we wouldn't rule you out for funding, especially with the the expiry date being kind of 12 months of inactivity and no contact. So you would have that time and that leeway to kind of build capacity and get yourself ready to deliver carbon literacy training. It doesn't have to be kind of perfect and ready to go right now. I know there can be bumps in the road, and especially when you're maybe collaborating with lots of people, there are sometimes delays. But yeah, definitely, I'd say don't be put off applying just because you're not kind of fully kind of formalized just yet.
Thank you, Lily.
You're welcome. I'm just going to have a little sip of water. Are there any other groups who would like to share any of their plans?
One last question. So beyond the fact that people will take the courses and then take certain action as well, do you have like a community of everyone that has taken the courses and the kind of action that they continue to take beyond just these particular access and everything? What does it look like beyond this?
So this is interesting, actually. I think it's something that the wider project is working on at the moment, is creating a new platform called CLAN, which is the Carbon Literacy Action Network, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emma and Fiona. But this will be a new platform where everyone who's been certified as carbon literate can engage with each other and kind of share their actions and keep motivating each other and sharing new resources and updated kind of stats and things, and keep engaging in carbon literacy beyond just the kind of day's worth of training. So it'll be really exciting to see that once it's kind of formally launched. And kind of keep the momentum up once, and kind of keep having a community of people that you can keep motivated and driving that action. So yeah, really excited to see how that does look when it is kind of published and out there for people to use.